Maya Chen kept her eyes down as she walked through the corridors of the Galactic Peace Station. Her small frame moved carefully between the towering alien diplomats, her worn academy uniform making her look even younger than her 22 years. The other species barely noticed her as she carried data tablets and served refreshments during the peace negotiations. The Zephyrian stood 8 feet tall with crystalline skin that chimed when they moved. The Korath delegation had scales that shifted colors with their emotions, currently a deep red that meant anger. The insectoid Vex clicked and buzzed in their corner, their compound eyes reflecting the station's artificial lights. All of them were arguing about the same thing that had brought war to this sector of space. The humans refused to understand, hissed Ambassador Zelak of the Korath, his scales flashing crimson. They spread through our territories like a plague. Every world they touch becomes theirs. The Zephyrian representative Kristalla chimed in agreement. Their expansion knows no bounds. They take what they want and call it colonization. Maya moved quietly around the conference table, refilling water glasses and pretending not to listen. She had heard these same complaints for weeks now. The alien coalition wanted humanity to stop expanding, to return dozens of worlds they had settled, and to pay massive reparations for what they called aggressive colonization. Where is the human representative anyway? Buzzed the Vex ambassador through its translator device. They show disrespect by sending no one of importance. Admiral Torres of the Earth Defense Force sat at the far end of the table. He was a weathered man in his 60s with gray hair and tired eyes. Our representative will arrive soon. The journey from Earth is long. The aliens exchanged looks that clearly said they thought this was another human lie. Maya noticed how their body language had changed over the past few days. The Korath scales stayed darker longer. The Zephyrians' chiming had become sharper and more discordant. The Vex had started positioning themselves closer to the exits. Maya finished her rounds and retreated to the small kitchen area adjacent to the conference room. Through the transparent aluminum walls, she could see the aliens becoming more agitated. The peace talks were failing and everyone knew it. She pulled out her personal communicator and checked for messages. Nothing from her family on New Shanghai Colony. Nothing from her few friends at the academy. She was alone out here, just a junior diplomatic aide who had volunteered for this assignment because no one else wanted it. The door chimed, and Admiral Torres entered the kitchen. He looked exhausted. "How are you holding up, Chen?" he asked, pouring himself coffee from the dispenser. "I'm fine, sir," Maya replied quietly. "The delegates seem tense today." Torres laughed bitterly. "Tense is one word for it. They're planning something, Chen. I can feel it. 20 years in the military teaches you to recognize when someone's about to make a move." Maya nodded and continued cleaning glasses. She had noticed the same thing but hadn't wanted to say anything. The alien ships had been taking different positions around the station over the past few days. Their security details had increased, small changes that most humans wouldn't notice. "Sir," she said carefully, "what happens if the talks fail completely?" Torres set down his cup and studied her face. "Then we go back to war, Chen, and this time they'll come at us with everything they've got. The Korath, Zephyrians, and Vex together? That's half the known galaxy." The Admiral left and Maya stood alone in the kitchen. Through the wall, she could see the aliens huddled in separate groups, their languages creating a cacophony of sounds. The translation devices were turned off, which meant they didn't want the humans to understand what they were discussing. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she put away the last of the clean glasses. She recognized the signs because she had seen them before, in another life that felt like a distant dream. The positioning, the increased security, the private conversations, it all pointed to one thing: they were planning to attack. Her communicator buzzed with an urgent message from the station's sensors. Multiple ships were approaching from 3 different vectors. The message was coded as a routine supply convoy, but Maya knew better. She had spent too many years reading tactical displays to miss what was really happening. The aliens had brought reinforcements. Maya closed her eyes and took a deep breath. For 3 years, she had been just another academy graduate, content to file reports and serve drinks. She had built a quiet life where no one asked questions about her past, where no one wondered why someone so young had the haunted look that usually came with too much combat experience. But now that life was about to end, she opened her eyes and looked at her reflection in the kitchen's polished metal surface. The timid girl stared back at her, but behind her brown eyes something else was stirring, something that had been sleeping for 3 years. The aliens thought they were dealing with a weak human delegation led by an aging admiral and supported by a scared little girl. They had no idea that the scared little girl had once earned a nickname that made enemy fleets change course just to avoid her. Maya straightened her shoulders and walked back toward the conference room. It was time to remind the galaxy why humanity had survived every threat thrown at them. It was time to wake up the ghost of Kepler Station. Maya returned to the conference room just as the alarms began to sound. The station's emergency lights bathed everything in red, and the automated voice announced what everyone already knew. Unknown ships were approaching. Admiral Torres was on his feet immediately, his training taking over. All delegates remained calm. This is likely a false alarm. But Maya could see the truth in the alien's body language. The Korath scales had shifted to a satisfied orange. The Zephyrians were chiming in harmonious patterns that indicated success. The Vex had moved closer to their personal guard units. Admiral, the Vex ambassador buzzed through its translator. Perhaps this is an excellent time to reconsider humanity's position on our reasonable demands. The screens around the conference room flickered to life, showing the approaching ships. Maya counted them quickly. 12 Korath destroyers, 8 Zephyrian crystal ships, and 6 Vex hive carriers. More than enough firepower to destroy the peace station and everyone on it. This is coercion, Torres said firmly. The Galactic Accords prohibit military action during peace negotiations. Ambassador Zalak's scales rippled with amusement. The Accords were written by species that understand strength, Admiral. Humans seem to only understand when they are shown overwhelming force. Maya moved to the side of the room and activated her personal tablet. Her fingers flew across the interface, accessing systems that most people didn't know existed. The station's defensive grid came online under her control, but she didn't activate it yet. Instead, she began analyzing the alien fleet formation. Interesting. They had positioned themselves to look threatening, but had left several gaps in their coverage. Either they were being overconfident, or they didn't intend to actually destroy the station. They wanted surrender, not annihilation. You have 30 minutes to agree to our terms, Kristalla announced, her crystalline form resonating with authority. Return the disputed worlds, pay reparations, and accept limits on human expansion. Refuse, and we will demonstrate why 3 species united cannot be opposed. Admiral Torres looked around the room, his face grim. Maya knew what he was thinking. The station had minimal defenses and a crew of only 200. Against a fleet that size, they had no chance. I need to contact Earth Command, Torres said. Communications are being jammed. The Vex ambassador informed him with obvious satisfaction. No messages in or out until you decide. Maya continued working on her tablet, accessing deeper levels of the station's systems. Most people saw only the diplomatic facilities and living quarters. They didn't know about the hidden military-grade sensor arrays or the emergency command protocols that had been installed after the last war. She found what she was looking for. The station's complete tactical database, every ship design, every weapon system, every known weakness of the 3 species now threatening them. The information was 3 years old, but ship designs didn't change that quickly. Admiral Torres, she said quietly, moving closer to him. May I speak with you privately? Torres looked surprised but nodded. They stepped into a small alcove where their conversation couldn't be overheard. Sir, I need access to the station's defense grid, Maya said. Chen, the defenses won't do any good against that many ships. We'd just make them angry. Please trust me, sir. I know more about those ship classes than my file indicates. Torres studied her face carefully. Something in her eyes made him reconsider what he thought he knew about his young aide. What aren't you telling me, Chen? Maya took a deep breath. My real name is Maya Chen Martinez, sir. I was the tactical officer aboard the Defiant during the Kepler Station incident. Torres went very still. Everyone in the Earth Defense Force knew about Kepler Station. It was where a single human ship had held off an entire alien fleet using tactics so brilliant and ruthless that they were now taught at every military academy in human space. You're Ghost Actual, he whispered. I was Ghost Actual, Maya corrected. Now I'm just Maya Chen, diplomatic aide. But those ships out there don't know that. Torres looked back at the aliens who were watching them with growing impatience. What do you need? 20 minutes and complete control of the station systems, and sir, when I give the word, you need to tell them exactly who I am. Torres handed over his command codes without hesitation. Do what you do best, Ghost. Maya returned to her tablet and began the real work. The station's defenses were pathetic by military standards, but they didn't need to destroy the alien fleet. They just needed to remind them why attacking humans was always a mistake. She started with the sensor arrays, painting each alien ship with targeting scanners that were far more sophisticated than anything they expected to find on a peace station. Then she accessed the communication systems and began broadcasting on frequencies that only military vessels monitored. The alien commanders would be receiving detailed information about their own ships, energy signatures, structural weaknesses, crew complements, even the names of their captains, information that should have been impossible for humans to obtain. Next, she activated the station's point defense systems, not to fire but to demonstrate their range and accuracy. Each weapon system locked onto critical components of the alien ships and held the lock just long enough to be noticed. The reactions were immediate. The alien fleet began shifting formation, trying to move out of targeting range. But Maya had calculated their movements 3 steps ahead. Every time they moved, new targeting locks appeared. "What is happening?" demanded Ambassador Zelak, his scales flashing between orange and red. Maya stepped forward, her posture completely changed. The timid girl was gone, replaced by someone who had commanded death itself in the space around Kepler Station. "Admiral Torres," she said formally, "please inform our guests that they are currently being targeted by someone they may have heard of." Torres cleared his throat. "Delegates, allow me to introduce Commander Maya Chen Martinez, Tactical Officer of the Defiant, and the person your people call the Ghost of Kepler Station." The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Korath scales went white with shock. The Zephyrian crystalline form stopped chiming entirely. The Vex clicked frantically in what their translators rendered as expressions of dismay. Maya smiled for the first time since the talks began. It was not a pleasant smile. "Now then," she said softly, "shall we discuss the terms of your withdrawal?" The silence in the conference room stretched for almost a full minute. The alien delegates stared at Maya, as if she had transformed into a completely different species. In a way, she had. "Impossible," Kristalla finally chimed, her crystalline form resonating with disbelief. "The Ghost of Kepler Station is a myth, human propaganda to make their single victory seem larger than it was." Maya walked to the main display console and input her personal authorization codes. The screen filled with tactical information that made all 3 alien species take involuntary steps backward. Real-time positions of every ship in their fleet, complete structural analyses and weapon system diagnostics that should have been impossible to obtain. "Myth?" Maya asked quietly. "Your flagship, the Korath's Pride, has a microfracture in its port engine housing. Repair Bay 7 on your second carrier shows signs of rushed armor plating. And the Vex Hive ship Queen's mandate is operating with only 60% of its fighter complement because the rest were destroyed in a recent skirmish with pirates." Ambassador Zelak's scales had gone completely white, a color that indicated terror in Korath physiology. "How could you know such things?" "Because I make it my business to know everything about ships that point weapons at human installations," Maya replied. She gestured to the display. "I've been tracking your fleet since it left your respective home systems 2 weeks ago. Did you really think we wouldn't notice 3 species coordinating their movements?" The Vex ambassador's compound eyes focused intently on Maya. "The report said the Ghost died when the Defiant was destroyed. The Defiant was damaged, not destroyed, and I transferred to other duties after Kepler Station." Maya's voice carried no emotion, but Admiral Torres could see the tension in her shoulders. "I chose a quieter life. You've now chosen to end that quiet life." She turned back to the tactical display and began highlighting specific points on each alien ship. "Your current formation is tactically unsound. You're bunched too close together, which makes you vulnerable to cascade failures. Your heavy ships are positioned to intimidate, not to fight effectively, and you've left your supply ships completely exposed." "Supply ships?" Ambassador Zelak managed to ask. Maya smiled that cold smile again. "Did you think I only tracked your warships? I know about the fuel tankers hiding behind the asteroid field. I know about the troop transports waiting in the outer system. I even know about the escape pods you've prepared for your diplomatic staff." She input another command, and the display showed ship movements from the past hour. The aliens watched in growing horror as their supposedly secret maneuvering was laid bare in perfect detail. "This is what happened at Kepler Station," Maya continued, her voice taking on the tone of a lecture. An enemy fleet thought they could intimidate a single human ship. They positioned themselves for maximum psychological impact rather than tactical advantage. They forgot that humans don't see overwhelming odds as a reason to surrender. The Zephyrian ambassador found her voice. "What do you want?" "What I want," Maya said, turning to face them directly, "is for you to understand exactly what you're dealing with. At Kepler Station, I commanded one heavy cruiser against 47 enemy ships. When the battle ended, 31 of those ships were destroyed and the rest were fleeing for their lives." She paused to let that sink in. "Today I control a fully equipped military station with sensors that can track your ships from 3-star systems away and weapons that can target your critical systems with surgical precision. More importantly, I have something I didn't have at Kepler Station." "What?" The Vex ambassador buzzed nervously. "Back up." Maya touched her tablet and new contacts appeared on the display. 12 ships dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, their signatures clearly marking them as human military vessels. "The 7th Fleet has been shadowing your forces since you entered this sector," Maya explained casually. "Captain Rodriguez was my weapons officer at Kepler Station. She's learned a few things since then." Admiral Torres tried not to show his surprise. He had no idea human reinforcements were coming, but he trusted Maya's judgment completely. The alien delegates were frantically activating their own communication devices, trying to contact their fleets. Maya allowed them exactly 30 seconds before jamming their signals. "Now," she said, settling into a chair at the head of the conference table, "let's discuss the real terms of these negotiations." Her entire demeanor had changed. The timid girl was completely gone, replaced by someone who radiated quiet confidence and barely contained lethality. She folded her hands and looked at each delegate in turn. "First, your fleets will withdraw to positions outside this system. Immediately. We cannot simply—" Ambassador Zelak began. "Second," Maya continued as if he hadn't spoken, "you will return to your respective governments and explain that humanity's expansion will continue according to our established colonial policies. Any attempt to interfere will be met with the same response your predecessors received at Kepler Station." The Korath ambassador's scales were shifting rapidly between white and red. "You cannot threaten 3 species with 1 station and 12 ships." Maya's smile became genuinely terrifying. "Ambassador, I once held off 10 times that many ships with nothing but a damaged cruiser and a crew that hadn't slept in 36 hours. Do you really want to test what I can do with proper equipment and rested personnel?" She stood and walked to the viewing port, looking out at the alien fleet. "At Kepler Station, I learned something important about your species. You understand strength, but you fear unpredictability. You can calculate odds and plan for conventional tactics, but you have no idea how to fight someone who refuses to follow the rules." Turning back to the delegates, she continued, "Humans don't just fight to win. We fight to ensure our enemies regret ever pointing a weapon at us. We fight to make examples that prevent future conflicts. We fight to protect not just ourselves, but the idea that peaceful beings should never have to live in fear." The room was dead silent except for the quiet humming of the station systems. "Your fleets have exactly 10 minutes to begin withdrawal," Maya announced. "If they're still in weapons range after that, I'll demonstrate why the survivors of Kepler Station wake up screaming my name." She sat back down and activated her tablet, apparently dismissing the alien delegates entirely. After a moment of stunned silence, all 3 ambassadors began speaking urgently into their communicators, issuing orders for immediate retreat. Admiral Torres moved closer to Maya. "Are there really human reinforcements out there?" Maya's cold smile softened slightly. "There are now. I sent a priority message to Admiral Chen before the jamming started. She happens to be my mother, and she's never liked people who threaten her daughter." Torres stared at her in amazement. "Your mother is Admiral Rebecca Chen, commander of the 7th Fleet?" "Family tradition," Maya said quietly, watching the alien ships beginning to move away from the station. "We don't like bullies." The alien fleets were withdrawing, but Maya knew this was far from over. She watched the tactical display as the ships moved to the edge of the system, noting how they maintained formation even in retreat. These weren't defeated enemies fleeing in panic. They were professional military forces making a tactical withdrawal. "They'll be back," she said quietly to Admiral Torres. "When?" he asked. "Within 48 hours. They need time to regroup, analyze what happened here, and decide how to respond to the fact that the ghost of Kepler Station is alive and active again." The alien delegates, had finished their urgent communications and were staring at Maya with a mixture of fear and calculation. She recognized the look. It was the same expression she had seen on enemy commanders just before they made desperate decisions. Ambassador Zalak stepped forward, his scales now a deep purple that indicated dangerous resolve. Commander Chen Martinez, you have won this encounter, but you have also escalated this conflict beyond any possibility of peaceful resolution. There was never going to be a peaceful resolution, Maya replied calmly. You came here with a fleet to demand surrender. The only question was whether you would leave convinced of your mistake or as debris. The Zephyrian ambassador, Kristalla, chimed a complex harmony that the translators rendered as formal challenge language. Your reputation precedes you, Ghost, but Kepler Station was 3 years ago. Many things have changed since then. Maya stood and walked to the main display, bringing up a detailed star chart of the local sector. You're right. Many things have changed. Human technology has advanced. Our fleet strengths have increased. Our intelligence networks have expanded. She highlighted several systems on the chart. We know about the weapons research facility in the Korath home system. We know about the new crystal ship designs being tested in Zephyrian space. And we know about the Vex breeding programs intended to create larger combat forms. The 3 ambassadors exchanged glances that confirmed Maya's information was accurate. But the most important thing that has changed, Maya continued, is that humanity has learned from Kepler Station. We've studied what worked and what didn't. We've prepared for the day when we would face coordinated alien aggression again. She input new commands, and the display showed the positions of human forces throughout the sector. The aliens stared in shock at the sheer scope of the deployment. 17 fleets positioned at strategic points, defense stations at every major trade route, and communication networks that ensure any attack on human interest will be met with immediate and overwhelming response. The Vex ambassadors' clicking became agitated. This is a military buildup of unprecedented scale. The Galactic Council will never approve such aggressive positioning. The Galactic Council approved it 6 months ago, Admiral Torres said, speaking for the first time since the fleets had withdrawn. After we presented evidence of your 3 species coordinating military exercises and resource-sharing agreements clearly aimed at humanity. Maya nodded approvingly. Torres was learning to think like a strategist rather than just a diplomat. So you see, Maya said, turning back to the aliens, this encounter was never about these particular peace talks. It was about determining whether your alliance was serious about conflict or simply posturing for better negotiating positions. Ambassador Zelak's scales were shifting rapidly through multiple colors. You used us. This entire situation was a trap. I used the situation you created, Maya corrected. You chose to bring fleets to a peace conference. You chose to coordinate your demands. You chose to threaten a human installation. I simply responded in the most effective manner possible. She walked back to her tablet and pulled up a new set of information. Here's what's going to happen next. Your fleets will return to your home systems. You will inform your governments that humanity is prepared for war but prefers peace, and you will acknowledge that our expansion will continue according to established colonial law. And if we refuse? Kristalla asked, her crystalline form resonating with defiance. Maya's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes became absolutely arctic. Then you will learn why the survivors of Kepler Station call me the Ghost. Because I have a talent for making enemy fleets disappear. The station's communication system activated, and a new voice filled the room. Peace Station Harmony. This is Admiral Rebecca Chen aboard the Indomitable. Please respond. Maya smiled and activated the reply channel. Admiral Chen, this is Commander Chen Martinez. The situation is under control. Understood, Commander. The 7th Fleet is standing by for further orders. The alien delegates looked stunned as they realized that the human reinforcements were not only real, but commanded by someone with the same family name as their opponent. Admiral, Maya continued, please establish a secure perimeter around the system. Our guests will be departing shortly, and I want to ensure they have safe passage back to their territories. Copy that, Commander. 7th Fleet will provide escort services as needed. Maya closed the channel and looked at the 3 ambassadors. You have a choice to make. You can accept that this conflict is over and return to your people with a recommendation for peaceful coexistence. Or you can escalate the situation and discover why humanity has survived every threat we've ever faced. She paused, then added quietly, I want you to understand something. At Kepler Station, I was defending human civilians. Today, I'm defending the principle that peaceful negotiations should not be conducted under the threat of military force. But if you force this to continue, if you make me take active command of human military operations again, I will be defending something much more fundamental. What? The Vex ambassador asked nervously. The right of humanity to exist without constantly proving we deserve to. Maya returned to her seat and activated her tablet again. You have until the end of the day to make your decision. After that, I will assume you have chosen continued conflict and respond accordingly. The three ambassadors huddled together for several minutes. Speaking in low tones that their translators couldn't pick up clearly, Maya pretended to work on her tablet, while actually monitoring their vital signs through the station's biometric sensors. Their stress levels were off the charts. Finally, Ambassador Zelak approached her. His scales had settled into a neutral gray that indicated resignation. Commander Chen Martinez, we will recommend to our governments that diplomatic relations with humanity continue under the current colonial agreements. However, this incident will be reported as human military intimidation. Maya looked up from her tablet. Feel free to report it however you like, Ambassador. Just make sure your report includes the fact that you brought fleets to a peace conference and humanity responded with exactly the level of force necessary to restore order. The alien delegates gathered their belongings and prepared to leave. As they reached the door, Maya called out, Ambassadors, one more thing. They turned back reluctantly. The next time you want to test human resolve, remember that the ghost of Kepler Station was never the most dangerous human in our military. She was just the one who happened to be in the right place at the right time. Maya's smile was absolutely predatory now. There are dozens more just like her, and we've all learned from Kepler Station. After the aliens left, Admiral Torres sat down heavily in his chair. Chen, that was either the most brilliant piece of strategic theater I've ever witnessed or the most dangerous bluff in military history. Maya finally allowed herself to relax slightly. Who says it was a bluff? 3 hours after the alien delegates departed, Maya stood alone in the station's observation deck, watching the distant lights of the 7th Fleet maintaining their perimeter. The immediate crisis was over, but she knew the real consequences were just beginning. Her personal communicator chimed with an incoming priority message. The holographic display showed Admiral Rebecca Chen, a woman in her early 50s with graying hair and the same intense brown eyes as her daughter. Maya, the Admiral said without preamble. What the hell just happened out there? Maya straightened to attention automatically. Even after 3 years of civilian life, some habits never faded. The alien coalition attempted to use military force to coerce diplomatic concessions. I responded by demonstrating that such tactics are ineffective against human personnel. By revealing your identity as Ghost Actual? Maya, you know what this means. Yes, ma'am. It means I can't go back to being just another diplomatic aide. Admiral Chen studied her daughter's face carefully. The moment those ambassadors report back to their governments, every intelligence service in the galaxy will be updating their files on you. They thought Ghost Actual was dead or retired. Now they know otherwise. Maya nodded grimly. She had accepted this consequence the moment she decided to drop her cover. I understand the implications, Admiral. Do you? Within a week, there will be bounties on your head. Assassins will come for you. Enemy fleets will specifically target any ship you're known to be aboard. You've just painted the biggest target in human space on your back. Better my back than on innocent civilians, Maya replied quietly. Admiral Chen's expression softened slightly. There's my daughter, still trying to protect everyone else. They were interrupted by Admiral Torres entering the observation deck. He had changed into a fresh uniform and looked more composed than he had during the crisis. Commander Chen Martinez, he said formally, I've received new orders from Earth Command. You're being recalled to active duty immediately with the rank of full commander and assignment to strategic operations. Maya wasn't surprised. The moment she had revealed herself, she knew her quiet life was over. Understood, sir. When do I report? Actually, Admiral Chen interjected, you're being assigned to my command. It seems Earth Command has decided that if the ghost of Kepler Station is active again, she should be working with people who understand her capabilities. Maya felt a mix of relief and apprehension. Working with her mother would be professionally challenging, but it also meant she would be with people who cared about her as more than just a weapon. There's something else, Torres continued. Our intelligence networks have been monitoring alien communications since the incident. The three species aren't giving up. They're planning something bigger. He activated a wall display showing intercepted communications data. The Korath are calling for a full military alliance. The Zephyrians are pushing for immediate mobilization. And the Vex are suggesting what they call permanent solutions to the human problem. Maya studied the data, her tactical mind automatically analyzing the implications. They're scared. Scared species make desperate decisions. Our analysis suggests they're planning to unite their entire military forces and launch a preemptive strike against human space, Torres explained. They believe that eliminating you specifically will demoralize human resistance. Admiral Chen's image flickered slightly as her ship adjusted position. Maya, they're planning to target every installation you might be assigned to. They want to draw you into a battle where they have overwhelming numerical superiority. How overwhelming? Maya asked. Current intelligence estimates suggest they could field nearly 300 ships in a coordinated assault, Torres replied. Maya was quiet for a long moment, processing the information. Finally, she spoke. Admiral Torres, what's the status of the other human fleets? Scattered across dozens of systems protecting our colonies and trade routes. We could maybe assemble 60 ships for a major engagement, but it would leave our territories dangerously exposed. And Earth Command strategy? Torres hesitated. They want to use you as bait. Draw the alien alliance into attacking a position where we can inflict maximum casualties while minimizing our own losses. Maya turned to look out at the stars again. They want another Kepler station. Maya, her mother said gently, you don't have to do this. There are other ways to handle this situation, are there? Maya asked. The aliens have decided that humanity's expansion must be stopped by force. They believe they can intimidate us into submission. The only way to change their minds is to demonstrate conclusively that attacking humans always costs more than any possible benefit. She turned back to face the others. At Kepler Station, I fought to protect civilians and buy time for evacuation. This time I would be fighting to end a war before it really begins. Against 300 ships, Torres pointed out. Maya smiled that cold smile again. Admiral Torres, do you know why they called me the ghost of Kepler Station? Because you seemed to appear and disappear at will during the battle, striking where the enemy least expected it. Partly, Maya agreed. But mainly because when the battle was over, I had made 31 enemy ships simply cease to exist. They were there one moment, gone the next, like they had been touched by death itself. She walked to the tactical display and began highlighting positions. The aliens think in terms of overwhelming force and superior numbers. They plan battles like mathematics problems. More ships equals victory. And humans think differently? Torres asked. Humans think in terms of making the enemy regret ever starting the fight, Maya replied. We don't just want to win. We want to win so decisively that no one else ever tries the same thing. Admiral Chen leaned forward in her holographic display. Maya, what are you planning? Maya's smile became genuinely terrifying. I'm planning to teach the galaxy why the phrase human mercy is considered a contradiction in terms by everyone who has ever faced us in battle. She turned to Torres. Admiral, please send a message to Earth Command. Tell them that Commander Chen Martinez accepts the assignment and requests full tactical autonomy. And tell them, she added, her voice carrying the deadly certainty that had once made enemy commanders surrender rather than face her, that the ghost of Kepler Station is officially back in business. Outside the observation deck, the stars seemed to flicker as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath. Somewhere in the darkness, 3 alien species were planning humanity's destruction. They had no idea that their plans had just awakened something that had been sleeping for 3 years. Death itself was about to return to motion, and this time, it had learned new ways to dance. 6 weeks later, Maya stood on the bridge of the Defiant 2, watching 300 alien ships drop out of hyperspace at the edge of the Centauri system. The massive fleet stretched across space like a metal constellation, their combined firepower enough to glass entire worlds. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, enemy fleet composition confirmed. 112 Korath destroyers, 96 Zephyrian crystal ships, and 92 Vex hive carriers. They're deploying in standard intimidation formation. Maya smiled as she studied the enemy positions. They had learned nothing from their previous encounters with humanity, still thinking like mathematicians instead of warriors. Open a channel to the alien fleet, she ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the 3 ambassadors she had faced at Peace Station Harmony. Behind them, the bridges of their respective flagships were visible, crowded with military personnel who radiated confidence in their overwhelming numerical superiority. Ghost of Kepler Station, Ambassador Zelak said, his scales a deep red of satisfaction. You see what happens when you threaten the combined might of 3 civilized species. Surrender now, and we will make your death quick. Maya looked utterly relaxed in her command chair, as if she were discussing the weather rather than facing impossible odds. Ambassador, I have to ask, did any of you actually study what happened at Kepler Station? We studied your tricks and illusions, Kristalla chimed dismissively. Clever tactics against a small, unprepared force. Today you face the coordinated might of our greatest military minds. Greatest military minds, Maya repeated thoughtfully. Tell me, what did your greatest military minds conclude about my primary tactical philosophy? The Vex ambassador's compound eyes focused intently. You use unconventional methods and psychological warfare to overcome superior numbers. Maya's smile became genuinely amused. Close, but not quite right. Would you like to know what my actual philosophy is? She stood and walked closer to the screen, her presence somehow seeming to fill the space despite being vastly outnumbered. My tactical philosophy is very simple. When someone threatens humanity, I don't just defeat them. I make sure they can never threaten anyone again. She gestured to her tactical officer. Lieutenant, please show our guests the current disposition of human forces in this system. The display changed to show the Centauri system. The alien commanders leaned forward, expecting to see the small human fleet they had been tracking. Instead, they saw something that made their confident expressions falter. 60 human ships were visible, positioned exactly where intelligence had predicted. But there were also energy signatures throughout the system that didn't match any known ship classes. What are those readings? Ambassador Zelak demanded, his scales shifting to orange with concern. Those, Maya said pleasantly, are the things your greatest military minds failed to consider. You see, you made the same mistake everyone makes when facing humanity. You assumed we would fight fair. She input commands on her personal tablet and new contacts began appearing on the display, dozens of them, hidden throughout the asteroid fields and debris clouds of the system. Stealth platforms, she explained casually, automated weapon systems, gravity mines, and my personal favorite, hunter-killer drones programmed with the specifications of your exact ship classes. The alien commanders were frantically working their own displays, trying to get accurate counts of the hidden weapons, but Maya had designed the concealment systems personally. They would only detect what she wanted them to detect. This is impossible, the Vex ambassador buzzed in distress. Our sensors show no such deployment. Your sensors show exactly what I want them to show, Maya replied. The question you should be asking is, why am I showing you this now? She walked back to her command chair and settled in comfortably. The answer is simple. I'm giving you one last chance to withdraw. Not because I'm concerned about the outcome of this battle, but because what's about to happen will be so devastating that it will fundamentally change how every species in the galaxy thinks about humanity. The 3 ambassadors exchanged glances. Despite their overwhelming numerical advantage, something in Maya's demeanor was deeply unsettling. You're bluffing, Ambassador Zelak said, but his scales had gone pale. 300 ships cannot be defeated by tricks and hidden weapons. Maya's expression became absolutely serene. Ambassador, let me tell you something about Kepler Station that wasn't included in your intelligence reports. When the battle ended and 31 enemy ships had been destroyed, do you know what I felt? She paused, looking directly into the camera with eyes that seemed to see right through the screen. Disappointment, because there weren't more of them to destroy. The bridge of the Defiant 2 was completely silent. Even Maya's own crew looked unsettled by the quiet intensity in her voice. You came here to eliminate the ghost of Kepler Station, she continued. But you misunderstood what the ghost actually is. You thought it was about clever tactics and superior technology. It's not. She leaned forward slightly. The ghost is what happens when you threaten something a human being has decided to protect. It's the certainty that no matter how many of you there are, no matter how powerful your weapons, no matter how brilliant your strategies, you will lose. Because we will never stop, never surrender, and never show mercy to those who mistake our willingness to live in peace for weakness. Maya stood again and activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, this is Ghost Actual. The enemy has declined our offer of withdrawal. Initiate Protocol 7. Across the Centauri system, weapon systems that had been hidden for weeks suddenly came online. The asteroid fields lit up with targeting lasers. Gravity mines activated, creating spatial distortions that trapped entire squadrons of alien ships. Hunter-killer drones emerged from concealment and began their deadly work. But the most devastating surprise was yet to come. By the way, Maya said to the alien commanders, who were watching their formations disintegrate in real time, I lied about one thing. There aren't 60 human ships in this system. New contacts appeared on every display as cloaking fields deactivated throughout the system. Not 60 ships, but 120. The entire 7th Fleet had been hidden, waiting for exactly this moment. There are 120 human ships, and every single one of them is commanded by someone who learned their tactics from studying what I did at Kepler Station. The alien fleet was in complete chaos now. Ships were colliding as they tried to avoid the gravity mines. Automated weapons platforms were systematically destroying anything that moved in predetermined kill zones. And the human fleet was advancing with the coordinated precision of a pack of predators who had found trapped prey. This is impossible. Kristalla's crystalline form was resonating with harmonics of panic. Our intelligence was perfect. Our planning was flawless. Maya's smile was absolutely terrifying now. Your intelligence was perfect because I gave it to you. Your planning was flawless because I wanted you to plan exactly this attack. Every piece of information your spies gathered, every strategic assessment your analysts made, every tactical decision your commanders reached was based on data I specifically provided. The truth hit the alien commanders like a physical blow. They hadn't been planning an attack. They had been walking into the most elaborate trap in military history. You wanted us to bring 300 ships here, Ambassador Zelak whispered, his scales now completely white. I needed you to bring every ship you could muster, Maya corrected, because I wanted to end this war permanently. When word spreads through the galaxy about what happened here today, no one will ever again mistake humanity's desire for peace as a sign of weakness. She looked out at the battle raging across the system. Human ships moved through the chaos like dancers, each one perfectly positioned to maximize damage while minimizing risk. The alien fleet, despite its overwhelming numbers, was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that had turned the entire star system into a weapon. This is what happens, Maya said quietly, when you threaten humanity. This is why they call me the Ghost, because when I'm done, there's nothing left but empty space and the memory of why you should never have tried to hurt the people I protect. The communication channel closed as the alien flagships began to break apart under concentrated human fire. By the end of the day, the combined fleet of 3 species had been reduced to scattered debris, and a handful of ships fleeing toward the edge of the system. Maya remained on the bridge, watching the tactical display until the last enemy contact disappeared from the sensors. Then she finally allowed herself to relax. Admiral Chen, she said into her communicator, this is Ghost Actual. The Centauri system is secure. Understood, Ghost. Casualty report?
Maya looked at her tactical officer, who was staring at his displays in amazement.
Human casualties 0. Enemy casualties total. There was a long pause before her mother responded. Maya, what have you done? Maya looked out at the stars, where the debris of 300 alien ships was slowly spreading through space. Soon, every species in the galaxy would hear about this battle. They would learn that humanity had not just defended itself, but had orchestrated the complete destruction of the largest hostile fleet ever assembled. I ended the war, she said simply. Now everyone knows what happens when you mistake the timid girl for someone who can't command death itself in motion. The timid girl was gone forever. In her place stood the ghost of Kepler Station, and the galaxy would never be the same.